Let's head to the US now. And Florida Governor Ron De Santis is said to be announcing within the next 24 hours that he'll throw his hat into the ring for the Republican nomination. But it comes right as a civil rights organisation has warned people of colour against visiting the state of Florida. The National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People has issued this statement in protest of Governor Ron De Santis and his policies, which the civil rights group claims are hostile to Black Americans. Joining me from Los Angeles in the US is Ami Horowitz. Ami, thank you so much for your time. It's really wonderful to have you with me. Tell me, Ron De Santis, is he definitely going to announce tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to announce tomorrow, and he's definitely going to do it on Twitter, which would make him the first candidate running for the Republican nomination to do sort of an untraditional announcement. And I think that him going on Twitter is a not-so-subtle middle finger to Donald Trump, who was kicked off the platform in 2021, but before that used it as his own personal PR studio and hasn't come on since he was kicked off. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. He's announced he's going to run, DeSantis announced, he's going to run an untraditional campaign, similar to what he did in Florida. But the most traditional way to win a campaign is raise money, and he has done that in a very significant way. DeSantis, at this point, has a stranglehold on a lot of the big money donors in the U.S.
Well, that's a sign of confidence on their part. Politico did a profile on Casey DeSantis, Ron's wife, and they have called her his greatest asset and his greatest liability. What does that mean?
You know, it was a very, very long article, and it was a complete hit piece on her, comparing her to Lady Macbeth. And for those out there who don't know Shakespeare, like I don't know Shakespeare, I had to actually look up who Lady Macbeth was. Apparently not a very nice person. She pushed her husband to kill the king so she could become queen, so that wasn't a very nice comparison. But yeah, it was a hit piece. I met her a couple times. She seems like a very lovely person. It does show, again, how the media is essentially a proxy for the Biden campaign, because what Biden wants and the media apparently wants is Trump to be the victor and the nominee. So they're going after not Trump, they're going after DeSantis. And yeah, it was quite sad. If you read through the entire thing, I think most people probably didn't. I had to because of this. You know, the people they quoted was otherwise, trust me, I would not have, was an MSNBC contributor, a bunch of anonymous political Republican sources, and Roger Stone, the hitman for Donald Trump, a convicted felon. So those are the people that they relied on for besmirching Casey DeSantis. So it didn't hold a lot of water with me, to be honest.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fair. It is interesting how much the commentariat and the media and, of course, the Democrats badly seem to want Donald Trump's success just so that they can have that divisive kind of contrast. Of course, earlier this week, the South Carolina Senator Tim Scott announced that he is going to join the Republican nomination race. The field's getting pretty crowded. What do you think that's shaping up to look like?
Oh, it's not, compared to what it will be, it is not crowded at all. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people who have announced already, but yeah, I think we have a significant amount of people waiting on the sidelines. I think Tim Scott is an interesting candidate. I think he is the favorite of the Republican intelligentsia. He'd be a good candidate, a strong candidate, smart guy. The first black person to announce, actually the second black person to announce. And I think that, look, I don't think he's got a puncher's chance, which means, look, he's not in the top tier, but you never know. People can falter. He can have a good week. It seems like, as always, for the Republican nomination, every year there is a black candidate who ends up hitting the top 5, top 6. I think certainly he can fall in that category. And if he can hold his own, he's got a shot as much as anybody else outside DeSantis and Trump.
Well, he sounds like he might be a pretty bright guy, and those people tend to surprise us. So, getting back respect to this travel warning from the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People, I mean, it seems pretty over the top. What's the evidentiary basis that they're relying on to say that it's not safe for Black American people to go to Florida?
Wow. The NAACP and frankly even the ADL has zero credibility with me, and this just cements it. What is their evidence? Zero evidence. Want me to give you evidence? I'll give you some evidence. How about the evidence of blue cities like Chicago, which has recently been named the murder capital of the U.S., which has more black people killed per capita than almost anywhere else in the country? How come they're not condemning Chicago? I'll tell you why. Because they don't care if black people are being killed if the people perpetrating the murders are black people. They don't care about that. They want to focus on Florida. By the way, Florida, a state that so dangerous under DeSantis, 5 of the board members of the NAACP went on vacation there under DeSantis. This is a state which they claim is erasing black history. I know, it's a parody of itself, Amanda. It's become a parody of itself. This is a state which requires black history to be taught in high schools and elementary schools. It requires education about slavery and about Jim Crow. This is a state, by the way, that has 25% more black people than the national average. And this is a state, by the way, that has had more black immigrants come to that state than almost any other state in the country. They've actually doubled their black immigration over the last 20 years. So, yeah, that's the evidence I have for you, Amanda. I guess the NAACP, looking at that, came to a different conclusion.
It's interesting because the overall crime rate in Florida is a whole lot less than in most of those Democrat states that there have not been similar travel warnings for. It's been wonderful to have you to contribute on the show tonight. Thank you very much for your insights, and we'll talk to you soon.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Amanda.